hold on a moment. I still think it's strange to assume someone was working together with him. The way the graduation rule works, there is no benefit to helping someone else carry out a murder. So the idea that anyone would work together like that is simply ludicrous. We talked about this, did we not?
Nope, none of those. I have to find it, don't I?
These argument songs are great for running too.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Especially when I'm getting to the end of one and getting really tired. Assuming the rule holds true, it is simply impossible that two people work together on this.
That is how the rule was explained to us.
But that only really applies if there's one murder, right? In this case, however, there were two murders.
Oh, I didn't mean to click on that.
Based on the rules that have been laid out for us, even if more than one person is complicit in the murder, only the one who actually carried out the act can graduate and survive. Assuming the rule holds true, it is simply impossible that two people work together on this.
That is how the rule was explained to us.
But that only really applies if there's one murder.
Ah, no.
In this case, however, there were two murders.
Two murders.
Murder.
I like Celeste's ring
Even
thing.
if more than one person, only the one who actually carried out the act can graduate and survive.
Yes.
Assuming the rule holds
You
true,
can actually get that in
it is
Rock
simply
Band.
impossible
Oh, yeah?
that
Yeah, my
two
character.
people
I put on my
work together on
character.
this.
It's pretty
That is how the
wacky.
rule was explained.
But that only really applies if there's one murder. In this case, however,
My Rock Band
there were two
character's
murders.
signature feature though is a
What
gas
is
mask.
what is your goal currently?
To figure out the right answer.
Oh, really? Is that so?
That would help, I suppose.
Carried out the act can graduate, and assuming the rule holds true, it is simply impossible that two people work together on this.
That is how the rule was explained to us.
But that only really applies if there's one murder, right? In this case, however, there were two murders.
Based on the rules that have been laid out for us,
Why are you
even if
getting
more
rid
than
of
one
your...
person is
I'm not
Whole
trying
thing.
to.
only the one
What do
who
you-
actually
I thought you could keep them. Why can't I
No!
cycle through them?
Once you cycle, it gets rid of the one that you sucked up.
It is simply impossible that two people work together on this.
If you suck up too much, you get full.
Indeed.
But that only really applies if there's... In this case, however, there were two murders.
Want a little tipsy Trixie?
More than one person, only the one who actually carried
I
out
tell
the
it-
Tipsy
act
Trixie?
can
I'll tell it to you
graduate
after this,
and
actually.
survive. Assuming the rule holds true, it is
Yay!
So basically, Kyoko is epic,
there were two
and so
murders,
when you
it's
don't
at
have
least
the means
plausible
of
that
winning,
more than one person
she will
was
often,
involved.
at the end of an argument, try and feed you said
The right
means.
answers, yeah.
What do you mean?
If there'd only been one murder, then yes, the idea of an accomplice isn't really worth considering. Naturally, if only one person can be saved per murder, an accomplice has no risk versus reward benefit.
Risk versus reward benefit?
The payoff for working together. The reward that balances out the risk of taking part in a scheme. There's no point in being someone's accomplice
having a
if
good
there's
time
no
over there, honey.
benefit to
Yes.
you. However,
Is that why you don't
if
want me to
there
cut your,
were
my
some
hair? Are you a
potential
cat? and
mutual
you need your
reward for the
yarn
risk,
playlist?
then
Okay.
cooperation becomes possible.
You're saying that two people could act as each other's accomplices to commit two separate murders.
I think that's what the true killer told Hifumi. They would each have an accomplice for their crime, and based on the case's events, Hifumi would have been the first one to act, murdering Taka. They made him carry out the first murder so he couldn't back out of helping them later on.
So in this case, there wasn't one single person committing multiple murders. Instead, each person killed someone, creating two separate incidents. And it only looked like one person
Twisty
because
turny.
that's how the true killer
Indeed.
designed it to look. A single suspicious individual, a similar weapon used in each crime, disappearing bodies by creating one seamless set of circumstances, They made it look like one person was behind it all.
The mastermind picked their target and managed to convince him to go along with their plan. And then, to avoid the no accomplices rule, they
Maybe it was
simply
Monokuma.
killed
Clearly.
their accomplice. Which, if true, means that betraying Hifumi was part of the plan from the very beginning.
That's just awful. How could anyone be so cruel?
You think so? I can't help but admire its cunning. Still, their choice of accomplice seems odd.
The effort made to convince us the two murders were the same. That was the main characteristic this time. Kyoko must have noticed that fact at the very beginning, which is why she said not to look at this as a series of connected events but entirely separate incidents. Kyoko's really amazing, although when you think about it, she's almost too amazing. Like, it's almost unnatural how good she is
I
at this.
understand how an accomplice could be involved. But then, who was the one pulling Hifumi's strings?
That's problem numero uno right now.
True killer manipulated Hifumi to carry out a number of actions and in the end murdered him. In the debates up till now, the way the case has unfolded, consider all of that, there's only one person who seems fit.
What could it be?
Decide time.
It was Sayaka.
Right.
That's Sakura, not Sayaka.
It was Commander
Oh.
Shepard.
Shepard.
This is my favorite murder on the Citadel.
I hate myself for this.
Here's my
You
answer.
hate yourself for her murder?
Yeah.
It was Celeste.
I was so sad
So I'm the suspicious individual now, am I?
when we first played this.
I really do hate this kind of joke.
A joke? I wonder.
So what you are saying then is that I specifically chose to work together with Hifumi.
He's your
The
epic
idea
simp.
that I would choose to spend any amount of time interacting with him, that I would go within 10 feet of that shit from brains, that lazy, worthless, goddamn idiot! Pardonnez-moi.
Just to be clear, there is evidence to support it.
Is that so?
It is. Throughout the investigation, there was certain behavior that was common only to the two of you. Considering what we've learned so far, it only further proves that the two of you were working together.
What is it that only Hifumi and Celeste had in common?
They both hid stuff in Hofumi's pants.
Yes.
Indeed.
A gun. The behavior
No,
they had in
you
common
can't call
has to do with the
Hifumi's pants hot.
suspicious individual in the suit.
I assume they would be quite hot though.
The only ones
He's
who
very
ever
fat.
actually
Stop,
saw the
very
robots
swampy.
firsthand
Oh,
were Celeste and Hifumi.
Schwamper.
The adults are talking now.
I gotta move my
As
nose.
he said, only Celeste and Hifumi ever laid eyes on the costumed individual. If we accept that Hifumi was one of the culprits, we can't help but suspect what Celeste has said as well.
Are you saying everything they told us was a lie?
After taking Hifumi to the nurse's office, we all began our search for this individual, correct? And not too long after that, do you remember what Celeste said?
I saw a shadow, something moving around at the top of the stairs.
We headed to the second floor specifically because of what she claimed to have seen. Next, to draw us all to the physics lab up on the third floor,
She let out a blood-curdling scream.
and when we'd all come to see what was wrong, what was it she said?
Is the milk bad?
Nasty. Is the milk bad?
That was a rather intense scream for someone like you. I saw him, the strange costumed man. He ran off as soon as I had screamed. I was blocking the stairs, so he headed further down into the hallway and disappeared.
Once she'd done her job of getting us all up to the physics lab, it was time for her partner to get to work.
Yeah. What was that?
That came from downstairs, it must have been.
Hifumi, he's in the nurse office. Better go. I'm
It
tired
was
of reading
to
that
get us
line.
to divide into two groups. So that we would
And yet every
discover
time
both
Tom
bodies
reads
at
it,
the
it
same
gets
time.
better.
That's true. Mine just get
Celeste was
worse.
precisely the one who proposed that we split up.
Then why don't we split into two groups? I'll lead the hunting party. That seems much more interesting. Very well, then Makoto and Hina, you come with me to the nurse's office. I will leave the capture of the suspicious individual to Toko, Byakuya, and Sakura.
Well, if Celeste and Hifumi were working together, all those chance events suddenly become connected. And on top of that, that piercing cry of yours early on. That was to signal Hifumi, wasn't it? It was your way of telling him, we're on the 3rd floor, everything's going according to plan. Why else would you let out a scream that could have carried across the sea?
I just realized another strange thing. When we found Hifumi in the nurse's office, who we now know was only pretending to be dead.
I certainly was not expecting this. I did not imagine that Hifumi would be murdered.
Celeste, you were the first one to say he'd been murdered. You wanted to make sure we wouldn't have any doubt in our minds.
I don't believe it. Everything, the whole thing was one big act.
Hina, you were with Celeste when Hifumi's body disappeared, right?
Yeah. I was feeling kinda sick, so Celeste took me to the bathroom.
Wait, then that was...
She wasn't worried about you. She just saw a chance to help Hifumi sneak out of the nurse's office.
Each piece isn't much by itself, but start putting them together and the picture gets very ugly indeed. Wouldn't you agree, Celeste?
I had no idea what you mean.
Don't bother trying to deny it.